Any comment? There we go. Is my technical ineptitude. I think I'd be used to it by now. Any conflicts of pecuniary interest?
I'd like to declare on 8D1.
You got that, Jason? And Sherry?
And I'd like to declare item 4.1 in closed session.
Thank you. Anyone else? Minutes of the special council meeting, community improvement plan, public meeting. I need a mover and seconder to approve those minutes. Sherry and Wendy, any comments or questions arising from those minutes? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Minutes of our regular council meeting from October 16th. Can I get a mover? Wenda and Krista Lee, any comments or questions arising from those minutes? None, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. Brings us to delegations. We have two tonight. The first one is from the Tamworth Aaronsville Grassroots Growers regarding Tamworth Community Garden Delegation. And I'll call for a mover and seconder at the end of that presentation. So who's going to do the presentation? You want to come up and you can turn those microphones on at the switches at the back. Yeah, well, don't ask me. So you have 15 minutes to make your presentation, if you don't mind introducing yourself, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. There should be a slide show that we sent to Jason. Okay, thank you, Jason. So good evening, Reeve and councillors. Thank you for the opportunity for us to introduce this initiative and to present our requests. My name is Colin Spears and my co-presenter is Michelle Clampf. We're both relatively new to this community and want to contribute as much as we can. Michelle moved here just a month ago, and I moved here with my wife 3 years ago. So we're both members of the Tamworth and Aaronsville Grassroots Growers, a community gardening group founded in 2009 and active ever since. And we encourage an interest in organic gardening and food production, primarily through speaker events where we also hold seed swaps. And once a year, we have a plant sale in May where vegetables and herbs are sold at pretty reasonable prices. The majority of our funding comes from the annual plant sale. And a community garden is our most recent and ambitious initiative. Our core steering committee members range in age from late 30s to late 70s, but all 13 on the steering committee heavily support this initiative. And this presentation is also endorsed by members of the New Legacy Centre in Tamworth, Friends of the Salmon River, and the Marlbank Community Centre. I received an email today from Susan, the president of Friends of the Salmon River, and I'd like to just read from that. It says, Friends of the Salmon Rivers have wanted to see one in Stone Mills for quite a while. With such an active bunch of volunteers and the good expertise of the grassroots growers, I think it would work well. Hopefully this will be supported by the township. If Friends of the Salmon River can help out on this valuable initiative, we would be glad to. So the grassroots growers core team comes with 15 years of experience with community gardening in other communities and decades of gardening experience. Food insecurity has become a major issue, and a community garden is one way to help alleviate it. New Legacy Centre is a local support for those of low income, and the centre is looking forward to receiving donated organic food from us to give to those in need. Next slide. Michelle.
So community gardens are valued as a means to improving the health and the well-being and sustainability of neighborhoods and communities. And our goal is to create a shared space where people can come together, grow their own food, and build relationships in the process. This will not be an allotment garden, but rather a shared place where decisions are made in a collaborative manner and everyone works together on different gardening projects, utilizing the entire space together. The community building that accompanies the gardening experience is so important, and work shifts become a fixed item in people's schedules where friends emerge and food is produced along the way. Next slide. Or the one before that. Thank you. Community gardens are planted with the intention of reducing food insecurity and improving health, including and especially mental health. There's a growing network of community gardens in Ontario with the desire to share resources among different community groups that are embarking on a similar endeavor, and that includes resources in this community as well. So the intention is to make gardening, and especially the growing of food, accessible to anyone who wants to participate in this effort. And we want to propose to engage in a healthy recreational activity while growing nutritional food and benefit from social interaction by meeting neighbors, building community ties, while learning about the cycle of growing and beautifying an open public space. And we would like to start the community garden in the Tamworth-Aaronsville area in a location that is accessible to the community. So we're going to invite community members, regardless of previous gardening experience, to be part of this project. Those with skills can mentor, explain, and drive the planting experience. And we want to create an opportunity with the structure for people to grow this garden and to grow in this garden. Hoping that it will be multi-generational. We don't see why not, given the support that we're receiving. And we're especially interested in attracting people who otherwise would be isolated within the community. So initially, a core group of 5 volunteers will work collaboratively to lead and expand both the planting and food distribution process. And we will gradually increase the number of volunteers who are attracted to this project. So we're going to start small and expand. That's going to be the slide we're going to use.
Okay, so we plan to start small for the first year and then hopefully expand and expand. Currently, the grassroots growers have $3,000 available to start this project, and we've applied to the LNA Naturally Matching Funds grant, but we won't know the outcome of that until January. Our budget, which I have copies here for everyone on the council, is based on being accepted for the matching fund grant. It provides for 4 raised planters, 4 feet by 12 feet by 30-inch high, and 4 ground level planters, 4 feet by 12 feet. For soil, which is about 20 yards, a storage shed, and labor to build the raised planters. Things like trowels and shovels, etc., would be donated. We've talked to several people about that. If we don't receive the grant, we'll just start with fewer plants and not a storage shed, unless we can be given funds from the Community Vibrancy Fund. 2 expenses not currently covered are water and hydro, and those can't be determined until we have a location for the garden. It could be as simple as a hose running from a nearby faucet, or as complex as drilling a well. And ideally, we'd like to be able to have about 2 acres so that we can expand into that. On to sharing abundance.
Through other community partners, low-income families and single people will be provided organic food free of charge. And we continue to discuss the distribution of the produce and hope to make it available to those in need through working with other community groups. And we look forward to the input of all our community partners to be part of what we hope will be an inclusionary project. One of the gardeners in the grassroots growers group had a very powerful experience in the community garden that's being offered by the Table Community Food Center in Perth. And that gave us a lot of inspiration for preparing this presentation. This is an inclusive, welcoming committee structured around food, and all involved in that project were able to share their skills and felt a sense of belonging. They even shared a community meal at the end of work shifts. And the person who attended and volunteered in that community garden for the season felt that the drive from Tamworth was worth the experience.
Okay. The community garden will add to the beautification of Tamworth and Erinsville. If placed in an area adjacent to other community resources, it can become a hub for interaction, adding another dimension for the potential of community engagement, decreasing isolation, and be fundamental in continuing to strengthen the community. As it flourishes and grows, there is, as Michelle said, the potential for celebrations with food and music and perhaps other art forms. I've been keeping my eye out and looking at different locations, and I could just, I guess, humbly request that perhaps one of these two might be available. I don't know, close to the new skate park and the soccer field behind the grocery store. There's a big field which has great potential. And behind the apartments near the B spot at 693 Addington, maybe there's an area in the field back there. I don't even know if the township owns that. And there are probably a space in Erinsville somewhere, and maybe there are others that I'm not aware of, but hopefully. On to you, Michelle.
So we're planning for this to be a sustainable project, building on our strengths and the lessons that we learn in each season so that we can continue the cycle of growing and distributing food while engaging community members in the process. Sustainability is already part of our mandate in terms of sharing seeds, educating the community, and we hope to see the planting of trees and bushes as part of this community garden. And this sustainability of a community garden increases access to healthy, sustainable food for all. These gardens beautify neighborhoods, and so we hope to reduce food miles required to transport nutritious food and to reduce neighborhood waste through a composting system as well.
Okay, so final slide. So thank you for your attention, and we can just request that you consider our request for land, water, and hydro in an accessible area of the community. And not being too humble, but a couple more requests that funding from the Community Vibrancy Fund. And also, since the township covers the insurance for our speaker series, we're wondering if it might consider covering the insurance for the community garden. So that concludes our little presentation. And if you have any questions, we'll endeavor to answer them.
Thank you. Questions, council? Comments, council? Doug, go ahead.
There are 13 on the steering committee, and then there's another 300 on our mailing list.
Mailing us, but how many of them are going to work?
We're going to
I'm
start
just
with,
thinking of 2 acres, how many people it takes to manage 2 acres?
The 2 acres, we would start small, but it would be good to plan to expand. Michelle had experience in another community garden where they started small and they did expand to 2 acres.
All right, Thank you.
over a period of 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Wendy, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. It's a lovely presentation. Congratulations on doing this wonderful project. I guess a question would be, you talk about Aaronsville and Tamworth, and is there any chance, I know the Agricultural Society here at Centerville, the fairgrounds there is lots of land there. I think they have a well because they have a canteen. Might be worth talking to them of how a partnership might build. It's just an opportunity there as well to expand and expand. There's so much land there. I know it's a little bit more central for people maybe from Yorker wanting to participate, and other smaller Coburg and Moscow and Enterprise, rather than just going to Tamworth. So might be another opportunity to look at as well.
And where is that location?
The fairgrounds.
Ah, okay.
You've never been to the Centerville Fair and you've been here 3 years?
I've only
Shame.
been here a month. Well, and interesting, that's actually a very interesting comment, because one of the things that we were talking about was fostering the development of community gardens throughout Stone Mills, so that it becomes local, but that there is a sharing of resources.
Anyone else, council? Crystal.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. Food is very expensive, as we all know, but particularly nutrient-dense food. And we know that in our, even though we're a rural community, is a lot of food insecurity, people who can't afford healthy food. And we don't certainly subsidize that, is what's available that people can afford. And I do think that there is a role for municipalities, not just in food security, but in food sovereignty. And I think that if there are tools that we can put to use, I'm not saying I know the place to put it or anything like that, but I think as a council, it's good for us to supporting food insecurity and food sovereignty in our community. It's definitely something that I share as a value and that I think we would all benefit from. So if there are tools that we could put to support it, I'm open to that. What that looks like, I'm not sure. I just also suggest an organization. I've been lucky to do this community training farmer program from Loving Spoonful in Kingston. They're an organization that is also working on food sovereignty, and I went to a talk of theirs last week that was very moving. So I would just suggest them as an organization to reach out to. And one of the things that they do is also education piece. I heard you mention workshops. I've helped with some community gardens before. In Napanee, we put in free raised beds in public spaces and free food gardens at the food bank there. And I'm just a big believer that it does that community connection piece, and the isolation piece is very real, that too many people in our communities are living in an isolated environment. And I see gardening as just one of the things that hits so many nails on the head for a healthy community. So.
Thanks, Crystal. Wendy, go ahead.
And I just have one more question. I know when you're putting stuff in the garden and something grows, such as a butternut squash, do you also show your people how to cook them? Because I tell you, it's quite amazing how many people do not know how to cook certain vegetables.
And that was what was so inspiring about that Perth program, that they have a kitchen attached to the community garden as well. And that food preparation has become part of that. So I find that especially exciting. And there was a project that I was involved with many years ago in my original community of Toronto. And we developed gardens, but we developed community kitchens in the same space. And there was a lot of incredible interactions as a result of that.
Doug.
I think everybody can be supportive of a community garden. You can't find fault with it. Okay. I'd like to say we received the presentation tonight, and that we at least take a look at our land inventory to see if we have anything that could possibly work for you. Because right off the top of my head, I'm not sure that we have something that's not already earmarked for something else, but we'd have to look, but at least do that.
Sherry,
I just would second.
okay. We don't need a third. Thanks for your support. So the motion would be, we're in support, we're receiving a delegation and staff to bring back a report on possible available land, and ideally with hydro or water or both if possible. Is that a good place to start for you folks? Okay, all in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Okay, our second delegation this evening, if I just get, is a pickleball delegation. Andrea Lettner, are you going to speak to it? You know the routine with the mics, Andrea. You have 15 minutes. The floor is yours.
Honorable members of Stone Mills Town Council, thank you for your time today. Who am I and who are we? My name is Andrea Lettner, and I'm a volunteer on the Stone Mills Summer Pickleball Committee and the Stone Mills Winter Pickleball Committee. And the folks with me today are Stone Mills residents interested in a multi-purpose community recreation center. Why are we here? Today, my purpose is to highlight the absence of indoor recreational facilities in Stone Mills. I kindly request your consideration and invite you to listen to our proposal for a multifunctional community recreational center. What is our objective? To commence the creation or procurement of a flexible indoor community recreational center in Stone Mills with a primary focus on pickleball, our group's specific purpose. While we approach you today from a pickleball perspective, we are convinced that a multi-purpose facility would address a broader range of community needs. So we got together and we brainstormed. Here's some strategies for achieving our goal. 1, centralize all skating and hockey activities in Napanee, repurposing the Tamworth Arena into a dedicated indoor recreational facility. While we acknowledge that this may not be the most ideal choice, it is indeed a valid suggestion. Number 2, initiate collaborative discussions with Napanee Mayor Terry Richardson, LNA MPP Rick Breeze, and LNA MP Shelley Cramp-Newman to propose a consolidated effort in establishing a recreational facility, we thought potentially located on Goodyear Road. Partnering with Napanee would create a mutually beneficial partnership. Anecdotally, we understand that provincial and federal governments are willing to provide additional grant and loan funding to joint municipal projects. There was an article in the Napanee Beaver recently where the Napanee community is urging their town council to build and support some sort of indoor recreational facility. So there is very much an appetite for what we're talking about here tonight. And third, explore the possibility of implementing a 3P project model, fostering a collaborative arrangement between public and private sectors. This model is particularly effective for long-term initiatives related to recreation, providing a framework for joint efforts that can enhance the overall success and sustainability of the project. Regardless of the approach chosen for a community recreation center, securing funding will be essential. During our investigation into funding for community recreation, we found that constructing a recreation center falls under the category of infrastructure. This designation broadens the range of available funding options. Grants. So I gave everyone a handout with some key points, and I included links in the handout to everything that I'm going to talk about here in funding options. So the Trillium Grant, they have infrastructure grants available up to $500,000. Hydro One has an Energizing Life Community Fund up to $25,000. Ontario Grant Watch is an online resource where you can search for grants for community recreation center, sports programs, things like that. Doug Ford recently announced infrastructure funding, $1.2 billion Building Faster Fund. Now we acknowledge that's mostly for housing, but they have allocated portions of that to community infrastructure, which includes recreation centers. Community fundraising. Organize and hold local fundraising events. Set up a GoFundMe campaign. Corporate sponsorships. Develop a corporate sponsorship program, platinum, gold, silver, bronze, give them a plaque, put it up in the recreation center. Offer corporate sponsorship for naming rights of the new facility. That's another way to raise funds. RBC, CIBC, and TD Bank offer funding for community-based projects. The links are in your handouts. So there are a lot of options for grants. Government loans. The Canada Community Building Fund support for municipalities. On March 25th, 2021, the federal government proposed a one-time investment of $2.2 billion that would help address infrastructure priorities in municipalities and First Nations communities. There are also government tax breaks and tax credits that could lend themselves towards building or procuring an indoor recreational facility. Other. Federation of Canadian Municipalities. They offer grants for municipal environmental projects, specifically if you built a green building. Loans are also available to municipalities at competitive rates, and most recipients receive an additional grant of up to 15% of the loan amount. You could also consider partnering with local service groups. For example, SOS in Napanee, the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, etc. Residents in both Stone Mills and Napanee have expressed an eagerness to actively participate in fundraising efforts for a versatile indoor recreational facility. Revenue? Well, if you build it, they will come. There's all the tax-related advantages, there's facility-related revenue, there's recreational programming revenue, advertising and sponsorship, concession and leasing, and donations. For example, tournaments, events, meetings, weddings, etc. What are the benefits of a local recreation center? It can provide numerous benefits to a community, fostering social, physical, and mental well-being. And here are some of the key advantages. It promotes physical fitness, promoting overall health and well-being for local community members. It provides a gathering space and kind of acts as a hub for people in the community and to gather and to interact. Youth engagement. Again, we're proposing a multi-purpose facility, not just one for pickleball. You could include after-school programs, and engaging young people in a positive and constructive pursuits in a recreational community center can contribute to their personal development. Culture and arts programs, you can offer them in a recreational community center and allow folks to explore and appreciate various forms of art and expression. Promotes inclusivity. Community centers are inclusive spaces where people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds can participate in programs. Health and wellness services, some offer recreation services, counseling, wellness workshops, health screenings, etc. Multi-purpose community recreation centers often have a positive economic benefit to the community. They attract visitors, they attract trade shows, they attract tournaments, they attract a lot of foot traffic that will also benefit the local businesses in the area. Crime prevention. Active and engaged communities often experience lower rates of crime, particularly for young people. And quality of life. Having a well-equipped recreation center can make a community more attractive to residents and contribute to a higher overall satisfaction with the local area. Potential rental revenue. I've talked about this a little bit. Sports clubs, tournaments, events, shows, trade fairs, etc. So why pickleball? Now I'm going to talk about my passion. Well, why we are here. People play pickleball for various reasons, and the sport has gained popularity for several compelling factors. Accessibility. Pickleball is accessible to people of all ages and skill levels. There is even wheelchair pickleball in some communities. Affordability. Stone Mills has paddles, balls, nets, and court fees generally range from $3 to $5. Social interaction. It's a very social sport. When you're not playing on the court, you're off the court chatting with your new friends. It's a great way to engage with other folks. Physical activity, it promotes cardiovascular health, muscle strength, and overall fitness. Adaptability, it can be played indoors or outdoors. So just because you build an indoor recreational facility does not mean you cannot have some outdoor courts in the same location. Is generally considered a low-impact sport, suitable for individuals who may have joint issues and other physical limitations. Pickleball is fun. It is designed to be fun. It's a smaller court. It's a slower ball speed. So it can be enjoyed by all. It also offers a competitive aspect for those seeking a challenge. And when we play, we usually have beginners at one end, intermediate, and then the advanced players for the challenge. It has a cross-generational appeal. I know that in our summer program, we had kids as young as 14 in playing with all the 60-plus-year-olds. And they had a great time. And they were fun to watch because they could chase a ball far better than we could. Ultimately, people play pickleball for a mix of physical activity, social interaction, and enjoyment. Today, I'd like to end by talking about our summer and winter pickleball programs. Much appreciation goes to the Township for backing our summer pickleball program. We all had a really good time. We had a meeting as a summary for the program, and it was estimated that we had 95% positive feedback from participants. We had 3 sessions a week, and we had an average attendance of 38 to 48 people per session. The gross revenue was roughly $5,396. And planning for summer 2024, we are considering adding new sessions to accommodate interest in the program. So it went really well. The winter program is run completely by volunteers. And we set up and ran the Stone Mills Winter Pickleball from the old arena in Napanee. As everyone knows, that burnt down recently. And it left us without a venue for about a month. This fact has led us to you. And we think this could be an opportunity for Stone Mills to build an indoor recreation center. In summary, Community Recreation Center plays a crucial role in enhancing the physical, social, and mental well-being of our residents. They contribute significantly to fostering a robust, healthy, interconnected community. By paying attention to the needs of your residents and seizing the current opportunity, a pathway to constructing a community recreational center is likely to emerge. We are fervently advocating for the establishment of a community recreation center and are ready to assist in any way possible. We kindly request the opportunity to reconvene in the new year to discuss the next steps with Council. Recognizing the urgency of this matter, we are dedicated to achieving swift progress. To fortify our proposal, we have included a page of links providing additional information to support and augment our ideas. One of them is a budget calculating tool for building a dome, pickleball dome. Gives you rough numbers if you're interested. Thank you for your consideration, and we eagerly anticipate the project of collaborating with the Council to bring this vision to fruition. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Andrea. Questions or comments from Council? Wenda.
So we are getting ready to go into our budget for next year in January. Would you be prepared to share your numbers with us prior to our budget session?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? So that's certainly a grand vision, and it would require a lot of deliberation and budgeting, obviously. And it's occurring to me as you were speaking that we haven't had anything like a comprehensive recreation study in the township.
Okay.
Something like this should obviously be integrated with other programs and facilities that we have or would like to have.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, Council, if we should maybe start with a bit of a staff investigation, incorporating this idea as a potential into some sort of recreation report. I don't know how fast this can happen. It might be a bit ambitious to anticipate something for the coming year, but certainly if this is going to happen, it should happen in the context of all the other recreational programs and possibilities in the township. So I'm wondering if anyone's willing to make a motion to that effect, if that's something you would consider.
Mm-hmm.
Wenda? I have a seconder, Doug? All in favor? That's carried. So we'll have a staff report forthcoming, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Just as an aside, when I talked to the local school boards, both the public and the Catholic, they were very much interested in this as well and willing to contribute.
I'd be interested in the school boards opening up their gymnasiums a little more.
Yeah, so would I.
There's all kinds of, well, I don't know about all kinds of barriers, but I was just talking casual today. I played pickleball today in Tamarack. And one of the issues is having to have custodians there and all that kind of thing. A little more flexibility and trust on the part of the board to community members to maybe have a key or something. I know there's liability and insurance issues, but that's another avenue that might be worth exploring as well. So, but that could be part of a study. So
They used to. I know there was a bunch of volleyball league back 40 years ago that played in the schools, in the gymnasiums. And that was the reason it ended, is that they, all of a sudden, they got excited about liability and that.
yes, go ahead, Rob.
In complete honesty, when I reviewed this on the weekend, I was like, wow, like as John said, that's quite a thing. But your presentation was fantastic, and everything starts with an idea. This is when you mentioned the idea of weddings, and I think about the township. I think about our hamlet atmosphere. We do not have a larger urban center with outlying hamlets. We're all hamlets in general. So we don't have that central place that we could do that where people could walk and get to it quite easily. Those challenges are what you see in Stone Mills. That changes the way we have to think. That's why we don't have a ward system anymore. There's certain reasons things happen. But you're right. We really don't have a place where weddings can take place, or trade shows or whatever. Your idea of partnering with Napanee, your reason you're here potentially is because they just lost that facility. I don't believe there's any plans to rebuild it because it was just, I don't know that for sure, but I haven't heard any mumblings about it. Maybe you're onto something. I don't know, but I'm really glad that we're going to take a peek at it because you just never know, right? You never know. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Is it okay if we leave?
You don't want to stay and listen to the accounts? So that motion would include receipt of the presentation. Jason, just take that. Yeah. Or recreation center. Yeah. 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 It may be. Yeah.
Wow, way to clear a room, guys.
When I saw those cars, I should have known it was.
Oh, okay. For the grass, is this, oh, yes, okay, I'll pass that around. This is the budget for the, Crystal, can you pass that around, please? Thank you. That's the budget for the garden.
We drove well, the township did, we paid for the well over there, except just on the inside of the tracks.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll carry on. Staff reports, Manager of Development Services Sands. Oh, did I miss something? Bylaws and resolutions. I did. Yeah, we've got to appoint our clerk. Yeah. Okay, appoint a clerk for the Corporation of the Township of Stone Mills. I need a motion that bylaw to be numbered to appoint Brandy People to the position of clerk to be read first, second, and third time and passed this day. Can I get a mover and seconder? Sherry and Crystal Lee. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Yes. Where is Brandy? I thought that might be you. Hi, welcome. It's a pleasure to meet you. Yeah, yeah. 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 We'll rub shoulders at the end of the open meeting. That's great. So staff reports, Jason, Integrity Commissioner Services reappointment. The motion would be that council receive the report entitled Integrity Commissioner Services Reappointment Amendment. Further, the council reappoint Airden Burles for a 2-year period and for 2 years and 2 months until December 31st, 2025, period, to provide Integrity Commissioner services to the township. And further, that the Reeve and Chief Administrative Officer be authorized to execute an agreement with Airden Burles for the provision of those services. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Wenda and Wendy. Jason, this was just a bit of an omission, is that right?
Thanks, Revise. Yeah, absolutely. An omission on our end at staff's level with respect to aligning ourselves with the County of Lennox and Addington and the extension of our Integrity Commissioner for all 4 lower tiers. Given the fact that we made the request for extension in October, we need to add the extra 2 months to make sure it carries through to the end of 2025. So we just wanted to make sure that it was clear on through council that that was the intent to align with our colleagues and fellow municipalities. So the minor amendment is here before us this evening.
Any questions on that? All in favor? That's carried. Thanks. Okay, October 2023 accounts payable that council approve the accounts payable reports for October. I get a mover and seconder for that, please. Doug and Sherry. Any discussion? Anything to highlight, Anita? Just the usual bills. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Deputy Fire Chief Richmond, this is regarding the Firefighter Association accounts. The motion would be that council receive this report and the council authorize the transfer of the balance of the Firefighter Association accounts held by the township to the respective firefighter associations. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Wendy and Rob, go ahead. Welcome, James.
Thank you, Rewise. Good evening, everyone. So this is just sort of a housekeeping item. In the past, any donations that came into the firefighter associations were sort of sent through the township where they were able to issue a letter that would be a tax receipt in recognition of their donation to that association. So the previous process was just holding those funds, and then the funds would be then allocated to the associations upon their request. After talking with the treasurer, we felt that it'd be better just to eliminate these accounts, and then it would just be a simple in and out process when that money comes in, and it would be sent to or a check would be cut to that association. So it's just sort of a cleaning up a procedural thing here for us.
Thanks, James. Any questions for James? That's great. All in favor? Oh, yes, sorry. Wendy, go ahead.
I was just wondering, is this something that has to happen every year? I was just wondering if we could put a motion that any donations coming in get forwarded once a year to the appropriate accounts?
Yeah, so I believe the process we're going to put into place is once the donation's received, then it would be processed automatically and then sent to that association sort of right after, so that there would be no holding of the funds. It would just be an in and out sort of.
So this is cleaning up.
Just to,
the
since these are
account, so-
reserve accounts, we have to get
Right.
your permission to.
I was just trying to make it easier for you guys.
That's what we're
if we
trying to
could
do.
it
Yeah,
on a
absolutely.
yearly.
Great.
Anyone else? All in favor then? That's carried. Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Manager of Public Works and Emergency Services Thompson. Number of items here. The first one is seasonal part-time night patrol. You going to handle that, Jason?
Thanks, Revise. Firstly, Manager Thompson's not with us this evening. He had an injury off-site on the weekend, and he's away from work. So I'll provide a bit more of an update as we get it. I just received that today. So he was planning to be here this evening with his onset of reports. So it was unexpected that he's not here this evening. In his absence, this is an information report as it relates to the seasonal part-time night patrol position. The township introduced this position 2 years ago, I believe it was, for the basically winter operations to try and alleviate some of our staff positions. And we had 2 individuals hired last winter. The process worked very well with the rotation of 2 12-hour shifts weekly, so up to 24 hours a week. The one gentleman chose not to return this year for the calendar year, just given he was a retired individual and he found it challenging in regards to the work hours. So we have hired another individual to complete this work for us at the township. Mr. Corey Kloss, has experience in the same capacity with the city of Kingston, and he's already commenced work as of November 6th. So it's an information piece just to mention that it was a budgeted position and everything is aligned and working well so far into the 2023/2024 winter season with the hiring.
Any questions in that regard? I didn't get a mover and seconder. Rob? Okay. Crystal Lee seconds. Did you have a question then, Rob?
Quick thing, when I went over my agenda, I saw Corey's name on here. I know Corey, and actually he's going to be a fantastic addition to the team. I'm really glad to see that he's joined us. It's great to see. So just welcome, Corey.
That's good. Anything further? All in favor then? That's carried. Thank you. The next one on this section is regarding a single axle plow truck. The council received this report and support the purchase of a 2009 Sterling L8500 single axle plow truck in the amount of $15,212.06 from the roads equipment reserves. And can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Sherry and Doug. And Nate, you're going to address this one for us?
Yes, I'm just going to speak to, since I was involved, and I'll just speak on Jeff's behalf of the single axle truck.
Great.
We became aware that the city of Kingston was going to be selling one on Gov Deals. So myself and Ian Veris, our supervisor, went and had a look at it, and it actually looked like quite a decent unit. And last winter, we were able to lease a single axle through Loyalist Township and found that it was the best piece of equipment that we could have to do the hamlets. What we were doing in the past is we have the loaders and a tractor with a blade. So then we would have to then go after and put sand down in the villages. So we found that the single axle was absolutely the best way to do it. So that's why we moved forward with that.
Any questions for Nate? Yeah, I do. So this is just a more maneuverable truck than our tandems and so on. Is that
Yep,
why it's
single
handy?
axle is about 4 feet shorter. It
Right.
has the same capability. Actually, it has more capability because the plow moves 2 ways. So it's not just a single one-way plow. It also has a wing and a plow. It can also put down salt and sand as well as brine.
Yeah.
So it's used more in the city setting, but in our hamlets and in like the village of Newburgh, that's absolutely what we need. So
And that seems like a pretty decent price for
it's a
something with-
fantastic price, actually.
Yeah.
We pretty much stole it, for
Yeah.
lack of a better term. For $15,000 for a dump truck with a plow and a wing, and yeah.
Yeah, with
It's a great deal.
100,000 on it. Yeah.
Yeah, in 100,000 kilometers, which is,
And obviously you looked at it. I mean,
it did, yeah. It's a
Rust.
Cummins engine with an
Yeah.
Allison transmission. It's
Yeah.
the most reliable things on the road.
yeah,
It's good.
yeah. Great. Anything further?
Thanks for being on the ball. The fact that it was close and you could go inspect it. I know with Gov Deals, a lot of these things are in Toronto and Ottawa, and that's a big commitment. To be on this one in advance, I mean, you just saved the taxpayer a pile of money for a nice searchable unit. Bravo.
Yeah, thank you. We've had all the repairs completed too. It's ready to go on the road. So,
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now we just need snow.
yeah, well, let's not wish for that right yet.
No hurry. Okay, all in favor of that then? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, another piece of equipment, single drum roller. The council received this report and support the purchase of a 2017 single drum smooth roller in the amount of $97,480 from the roads equipment reserves. Can I get a mover and seconder to get that on the floor? Sherry and Doug. Go ahead, Nate. What's this one all about?
So this one was, I believe we budgeted for it the year previous. And during COVID, there was not a lot of used equipment, especially this specialty piece of equipment. We had, I believe it was budgeted for in years gone by. I'm not exactly sure how many, but to be quite honest, they weren't available. And a brand new one is quite expensive. So we kept our eyes out, and then this one kind of just popped up through a relationship with United Rentals that Supervisor Ian Barris had as well. So we went and looked at it as well, and it actually only has 4,000 hours on it, which was usually a piece of equipment's good for about 10,000 hours. So there's still plenty of life left in it, and it was half the budgeted amount roughly. So we kind of took advantage of that opportunity.
Any questions for Nate on this one? Yeah, it's a no-brainer, this one. That's great. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
Our next item here is the food cycler program. We had a presentation on this earlier from the company involved. The motion would be that we receive the report and direct staff to enter into a partnership with Food Cycle Science Corporation to facilitate the distribution of 34 units as committed to via the pilot program pre-registration. And further, the council support the purchase of food cycle units in the amount of $3,400 plus delivery from the Environmental Water Projects and Environmental Services Reserve accounts. I get a mover and seconder for this item. Wendy and Wenda. Jason, you're going to address this.
We'll let CBO Detler is going to take this
Okay.
this first, and I can jump in as desired.
Fine. Jake, you're here. I didn't even look up.
Through your revise. Yes, I got this one. Yeah, in a previous meeting, we were told by the Food Cycler Corporation that we needed to get 50 basically signups for these units. And through recent discussions, we only made it to 34. And they've agreed to kind of extend that same financial agreement to a lesser amount of 34, which works out to a lesser contribution for us. With transportation, I believe Jeff's report, it came to roughly $3,900. That's planned to come out of a healthy sort of landfill-related account that looks like has, I think it was something around 150,000 in reserves to pay for this interesting sort of way of maybe diverting in the beginning a small amount of green waste away from our landfill sites.
Thanks, Jake. Any questions or comments for Jake on this one? Yes, Rob, go ahead.
Through you, John. Yeah, thanks, Jake. When this first came up, I was a bit concerned about us subsidizing appliances for people, which is sort of what this is, and had some thoughts. I'm glad we went about it the way we did. Going forward, putting it to the public, getting some commitment before we commit, which I thought was the right way. And it's nice to see that it was adopted. I'm really glad to see that they came down their numbers a little bit, because now we can potentially participate. Now, one thing about that is, unfortunately, when this came up, I reached out to a few people that had reached out to me who were interested in this and asked if they were on the list. And two of them said that they didn't know about it, even though they were the ones who contacted me initially to kind of give me a nudge in the right direction to support it. So I'm curious, based on what we have here, is this final, or can these 2 or 3 other people still sneak in there? How does this structure at this point?
Through your revise, Councillor Fenwick's a great question. The whole idea of the pilot program was to try and secure what we could from a numbers perspective to come to council with a commitment on the dollar figure. I don't suspect our colleagues at Food Cycler Distribution Inc. are going to be upset with the fact that we'd like to add or potentially add in additional. The thing I would ask for is if there is that consideration, maybe council make that consideration, and we recommend, or we note that down through motion this evening, is to a plus or minus in the dollar figure. We have the amount, of course, known in our reserve contribution number. However, I just want to be mindful that we're actually capturing this for audit purposes moving forward with respect to getting council's direction for staff in what we might be expecting. From staff's perspective, Councillor Fenwick, there hasn't been any sort of secondary lists, if you will. The company administered the pilot themselves. We just help bolster it from an information perspective in having that authored report in the Napanee Beaver on our website, social media, etc. So I've seen the list personally, but it was provided for example, from the company, as opposed to the township being the one sort of administering the list. So I would just make those comments for the consideration of council.
That's great. Thanks, Jason. That's what I was wondering. Maybe a possibility of, now that we know this looks like it's going to actually happen, that maybe we have a small period of time where we can track down a few actors. I just hate to see people that are originally interested and be the ones that aren't able to participate. That's all.
Doug, go ahead. Sorry, Crystal Lee, I'll get to you.
So the breakdown, the financial breakdown is this: each payer is paying $100 for each one. Okay, thank you.
Crystal Lee?
Oh, I was just going to suggest, based on Rob's, that maybe we have a cutoff date. We could post it again on social media and say, like, last chance up to this date, and whoever is in, and if not, then that's that.
Because it's going to be a bulk delivery when we do get them.
Yeah.
Is that right, Jake? Yeah, so they should all come at once. Yeah.
It would be wise to send somebody down to pick them up for $500 shipping. We can drive down and drop them.
Yeah, maybe, eh? Yeah. So can you personally contact those people, Rob, and have them get back to Jake as quickly as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be pleased to do that. The other thing too is I will share it on my social site in any other way. I just didn't want to do that until I knew for sure it was going to occur. And
Yeah.
it seems that we're now past that threshold.
Yeah.
So I'm more than happy to go out there and rally the troops at this point. It's great.
Okay. Okay, what do you need, Jason?
I'm looking at my colleague over there, Brandy, but we're going to need to rewrite in terms of like what direction council's looking for from a motion perspective.
So it's the motion, yeah. It's the motion as it stands, with an inclusion of some flexibility on the dollar amount.
Flexibility on dollar amount and additional opportunity for participants to.
If numbers change, flexibility.
Okay.
Yeah. Make it so it suits your purposes, and that will be satisfactory. Yeah. And Wendy, you have something to add?
Yeah, just for clarification, so we're doing a pilot project with the 30-some people, and then data is coming back to us from this particular company of what these 30 people, when they answer all the questions, and then we make another decision from there.
No, through Reeve Wise, we've got it a bit more simplified, thankfully. We had a pilot project go out originally to ask sort of how many interested ratepayers do we have in our township that would be interested in purchasing one of these units. 34 residents had responded. To the municipality, we're required to contribute $100 per unit to make this project viable. So $3,400. If we understand through local knowledge, I'll say, that there may be some members of our community that weren't included on this original 34 list. So we might see that number inflate to 40, for example. Really what we're looking for at staff's level is council's confirmation that if this number does inflate to 40 and our contribution from a municipal perspective increases from 3,400 to 4,000, is that acceptable? So by receiving that direction at staff's level, we'll provide the opportunity for the company to increase marketing for another 10-day span, what have you, to try and drive the numbers up to another plus or minus 5-10 units. And we'll contribute. We have the direction to contribute up to that threshold, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, that's the idea. And plus, no minus. We're not going below 34. Anything further? All in favor then? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, committee board reports and minutes. I don't think anyone's got anything from anywhere else. Items from consideration. 10A, members of council training conference attendance. I need a mover and seconder that council receive the verbal report regarding training conference attendance for council members for consideration. Sherry and Crystal Lee. Is this you, Jason? Go ahead.
Thank you, Reeve Wise. I wanted to bring this to council's attention through communication with a fellow member of council, as well as good discussion in the office with staff. We annually, as you know, budget training and opportunities for council to further their education in the world of municipal governance. to, in 2023, the specific number is $18,500 for council for training purposes. And if I understand it correctly, historically, that's allocated one training event or conference typically per year per member of council. And when that event or training, is over, if there's any funds left at the end of the year, or towards the end of the year, there might be additional opportunities for other members of council to participate in other training opportunities, but it's really to the discretion of council. One of the conversations that I had had with some of our staff, including our clerk today, first day, is coming up with a better sort of allocation of funds per member of council so that it's not ad hoc at the end of each year to try to understand who may go to something further depending on who went to a conference. I also find it confusing in a sense that if one member of council, for example, goes to an Ontario Good Roads conference that's held in downtown Toronto at a costly hotel, and another member of council goes to an OCA conference in Cornwall for one day, well, they've technically met their same consideration for training because it's one conference, one conference. So to come up with a more consistent approach is something that we're going to look at introducing into 2024 for members of council in terms of training. Where specifically in this calendar year so far, council's used $14,831, so there's approximately $3,300 left in the account for training. The question that was posed to staff was there are additional training opportunities, for example, this AMCTO course for land use planning. That is a relatively inexpensive program. It's $300 plus or minus, and it can be done from the comfort of your home virtually, as opposed to a conference attendance. Is there ability to participate? The question is a great question in the sense that we have $3,300 left. I suspect those who wanted to go to a conference in the calendar year of 2023 have already done so. So it's expected that would be, I know the treasurer is going to hit me, but roll over to the following calendar year for funds, but just not be deposited from this year's budget for training purposes. So really that I wanted to bring this up as to council for consideration to try and alleviate some of the questions as we go annually, and provide you that information to say that next year we're going to be coming forward with a better sort of strategy as to how that works. But in the meantime, is there council's support in fellow members of council attending courses that could be considered to garnering their understanding of planning or municipal governance, such as the AMCTO Planning on Primer course. That's really the focus of this item for consideration and discussion, more so than anything further.
Thanks, Jason. Questions? Doug?
More comment than question. Unfortunately, one of the problems that Stone Mills Township has is all of our staff is relatively new. So the memories don't go back too far. Okay. And it's also, Jason has well pointed out here, one of the problems that when you rely on procedures that are not written down. And that's exactly where we are here right now. We used to, in fact, at one time, we did allow 2 conferences.
Yeah.
And it was strictly a budgetary item that we went to one conference. But it was never meant one conference, one day were the same thing. It was always possibly loosely because it wasn't written down, but it was one conference. So we'll take one Good Roads or one AMO, one 3-day conference or whatever. That was so many hundreds of dollars. Then somebody else who didn't go to that type of conference but took 1-day seminars in at Kingston, which was a lot closer, they could go to 4 of them or 3 of them, as long as the dollars kind of figured out the same. The intention was to be fair with everybody, not to disadvantage one person over another or advantage one person over another. But you're right, a good review and maybe writing it down would make it simpler to what we could do, because I won't mention any names, but we have people sitting around the table that don't go to conventions that often and yet like seminars. And, no reason they should be disadvantaged because the seminar only costs $300 versus somebody else going and spending $2,000 at a convention. So but that's the way it was loosely left, was that everybody was to get the fair share, not one-on-one. One meant a conference, a 3 or 4 day conference, not a half-day seminar or whatever, So I think it's a good idea to write it down, to come up with a procedure.
Anyone else? Does that give you some sense of direction? Yeah. No, it's good to raise that.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the comments too as well, Deputy Reeve.
Okay, we had a mover and seconder in that one? Did we?
Sure.
Yes, good. Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Items for information. LNA Stewardship Council invitation to a public event, Bay of Quinte. Motion is that council receive the invitation from the Friends of Salmon River and Napanee River and the Stewardship Council for their event. We get a mover and seconder for that. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Wenda had her hand up, and Doug. Sorry, Jason, I'm rushing. B is Township of Stone Mills official plan amendment approval, that council received the notice of decision from the county respecting the township OP update approval for information purposes. Can I get a mover and seconder? Sherry and Wendy. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Similarly, item C is County of LNA delegation of subdivision and condominium approval authority to the township. The motion being that council receive the County of LNA bylaw 3585/23, being a bylaw to provide for the delegation of subdivision and community and condominium approval authority to the township for information purposes. Mover and seconder for that, please, Doug and Krista Lee. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. New business and statements from members. Yes, Krista Lee.
Okay. As many of you may know, November is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and November also marks Women Abuse Prevention Month in Ontario. It's a month where we should all try to talk about the hidden reality of domestic violence in our society and in our communities. And I think almost all of us can think of someone who's experienced abuse. In fact, rural women are more likely to experience abuse for a variety of reasons, like lack of transportation, increased isolation, lack of services, etc. I'm a survivor of domestic violence or intimate partner violence. And so if you don't know somebody, you know me. And it was very dangerous at the end. And I moved to a women's shelter and left everything behind except what I could carry. In some ways, it feels like lifetimes ago. In other ways, it feels like it just happened because you still live with the effects long after it's over. And last year in Ontario, on average, every 7 days, a woman or child was killed by a man known to them every 7 days. I think that's just women alone. So we're seeing the rates of domestic violence towards women have been increasing year over year, and including the death of women at the hands of people they know. So I'd like to make a motion that the township post on our social media noting Domestic Violence Awareness Month and something like "You are not alone" with the contact information for LNA Interval House, who provide domestic violence services in our region, as a way to show community that we are supportive of survivors and that we're acknowledging that this is a problem, and to create awareness of where people can get help.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? Yes, thank you, Krista Lee, for bringing that up. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
I have one addition on.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So further, just to see council's appetite on this, in 2015, 3 women, Carol Culleton, Anastasia Kuzik, and Natalie Warmerdam, they were all killed in Renfrew County by a former intimate partner. Out of their tragic deaths came a report of 86 recommendations about how we can prevent the increasing gender-based violence against women. Of those 86 recommendations, the very first one was to acknowledge that intimate partner violence is an epidemic, framing an issue play a significant role in how we see a problem and how we respond to it. When we call something an epidemic, we highlight not only its health-related nature, but also its urgency. Declaring intimate partner violence as an epidemic signals that it's an urgent public health concern and can help prevent awareness and challenge pervasive culture and silence and victim blaming. So I'd like to ask what appetite Stoughton Mills Council has to join over 50 municipalities and communities in declaring intimate partner violence an epidemic.
Any discussion? I certainly have no problem with that declaration. A good friend of mine is Pam Burns. You might be familiar with Pam. She was one of the main consultants on that investigation in Renfrew County, and at dinner parties provides us with many grim tales and statistics in this regard. It is alarming when you think of it, that if any other specific group of individuals was suffering abuse and death at these rates continually, it would be constantly a matter of discussion. But because it's happened for centuries, it's normalized. And up until the last few decades, it was barely even spoken of. Oh, it's a domestic. Oh, well, that's not that important. You know, that kind of attitude. Oh, he knocked her around a little bit, kept her in her place. All that kind of nonsense. You used to hear that when I was a teenage boy. You know, never thought of it. Oh, that's the way of the world. It's time it becomes something that's acknowledged. And thank you for bravely acknowledging your own experience, Crystal Lee. That takes a lot of courage. So I would certainly be open to a declaration of intimate partner violence as an epidemic, because it is. Yeah, got a mover, and Sherry will second it. Any further discussion? All in favor? It's carried. Very good, thank you. Any other new business or statements? Rob, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, John. Yeah, I was I've been working with Diane Giberson over in Yarker with certain community efforts on things as we have together in the past. And I've just been challenged, and just to give you everybody a heads up, she wants to get nutty, is what she's putting it. So what she's firing up as of today, and you'll see it out there, is she's asking for donations of peanut butter in particular. High in protein, one of those things that most food banks have to purchase and can be quite pricey. So she's asking different community members to go to their communities, the hamlets, in my case would be Enterprise that I would be covering off, and asking for donations of peanut butter. There's some details on the Stone Mills Marketplace website, and you'll see it here and there in social in the next little bit. Now, one of the things she's asked me to do is inquire about having the Stone Mills office here, on the township office, being a drop-off point. I don't particularly see that would be a big problem, but of course I have to bring it up and throw it forward. That's one of the things I wanted to bring forward. I was trying to bring up the name. I apologize. I try not to stay on the stupid thing we're in a meeting, but I was trying to bring up the official name she chose for it, and I can't find it in this mess. So let's just call it Let's Get Nutty, because I think that's what she was poking towards. And so that's what's going on. And I just wanted to ask if that's something that would be acceptable. That this could be a central drop-off point for it. I believe it starts this week, and well, she's already tagged me in it, so it must have started now. And it would, I think, at the end of the 17th or 19th of the month. And it's just a challenge to see how much peanut butter we can collect. And it's for the Salvation Army in Napanee, is the plan, and possibly in conjunction with the New Legacy Center in Tamworth was the conversation back and forth. The reason being is, as she'd mentioned, the Salvation Army services not just the Tamworth area, which I'm not saying New Legacy Center does just that, but they're all encompassing. So you don't have to have them just in your community to need you. Let's put it that way. But this is one of those things that I thought was a great idea. So that just came to fruition today. She asked me if I was up to get nutty with her, is what she said. So anyways, that's the scoop. Is it okay if we can have a drop-off center at the township office, or does anybody see a problem with that?
Yeah. Is it a possibility, Jason? You think of the logistics of it, where it would be if it's an issue for staff or whatever?
Yeah, thanks. Through your revise, I don't see any issues with it. I mean, I'm also trying to predict what we would see in terms of volume of peanut butter. That's what's going through my head at this point before I say I don't see it as being an issue. But obviously we're here, we're open from, our hours of operation. We have the sort of the pod, we call it, for storage of garbage bags and abundance if it becomes an oversupply. We have the building next door that's fairly big too as well. So I don't see it as being an issue.
Okay, sounds good. Do we need a motion for that, or?
The other thing too is if at any point if it does become a burden, just give me a ring. I'll come pick it up. And I just figured, we have enough nuts up front anyways. Why not some more?
Through you, we have one of our staff members volunteers quite a lot of her hours at the Legacy Center in Tamworth. So we have a very close connection with that, and multiple members of our staff been donating clothes recently to that center. So it's been we have a bit of our own little drive going on internally from a staffing operation and supporting our own Legacy Center. So it's nice to hear.
Wendy, did you have something?
I just have a suggestion. We do have a lot of stores and areas, like we have McCormick's, we have the Tamworth store, we have one in Yarger, that maybe they would, if they ask them, they would put up just a little sign, put your food donation in here, because I know Metro has where you buy it all bagged up for $5.99 and you put it in. And I said, I wish every store did this, because it wouldn't matter where you were, even if it was jam. And I'm sure the stores would probably get on board if they were approached. So it might be something that they might be considered to look at.
Thanks for the suggestion, Wendy. You actually read my mind in the process of speaking with Diane today. She had identified McCormick's to be approached, and I'm pretty sure they'll come on board. We're looking for a location in each of the hamlets, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be very interesting to see how much we get. I think it's a great idea. So yeah, super excited about it. And the other community efforts that I do usually require a whole lot more time and effort than just putting this forward and collecting peanut butter. So I'm pleased to be part of it.
Yes, Wenda.
Just a couple of things. I wish Jeff was here because I wanted to thank him for the speed sign, the little flashing sign in Newburgh that's gone up again, which is great because I've heard from a couple of residents saying, the speeding is an issue again, and it always is, and it comes back every once in a while. So it's nice to see the sign there. It's right across from Abrams Bakery. So it's more in the center of the hamlet than it had been before. It was on the outskirts. The second thing I wanted to talk with Sherry as well. So Sherry had sent out an email just, talking about the Tamworth parade and the banner and that kind of thing. What was the date? November 26th? Yes. And Newburgh is having one as well the following Sunday at 1:00. I wish I could tell you where it's starting from. It's usually the school, but I'm hoping that council will be in support of attending that one as well. And if so, maybe we could just take the banner from, Tamworth on the 26th, and I'll take it, or somebody can take it. Okay, good. And the final issue, and I will be bringing this up again when Jeff is here, but a friend brought to my attention about the household hazardous waste program in the township and how it's only once every, I think it's 2 years. And she had done some investigating with some of the surrounding townships and townships that are our size, and found that they had partnered with other townships. So bigger townships that are doing it on a regular basis were partnering with smaller surrounding townships. And so there was some cost sharing that went on with the expense of running that. And she wanted to know if we could look into that to find out if we could partner with Loyalist or Greater Napanee, so that, because a lot of people don't have the space to let all that hazardous waste sit around in a garage or a shop or a barn or whatever for 2 years. So, and the thought was, well, they could always take it into Kingston, and that's very true. But we do have a lot of seniors in the township that maybe don't have the transportation availability that a lot of us enjoy. Anyway, so she was just wondering if council would look at this again. So I'll be bringing it up again when Jeff is here, but I thought I'd share it while it was on my mind today.
Thank you, Wenda. Anyone else? New business. Well, that brings us to a closed meeting. And we have a closed session meeting pursuant to Section 239 of the Municipal Act in order to discuss matters, closed session minutes from October 2nd, information of an identifiable regarding an identifiable individual, labor relations or employee negotiations, and litigation or potential litigation. So I need a motion to go into closed session. Doug and Sherry, all in favor? That's carried. But we'll take a 10-minute break and resume at 8 o'clock. Oh, great.
I did not know.
All right.
I mean, you had
I didn't have much supper, so that would be good. I see I'm down to 8%.